Hi everyone, so today we are going to do a dry eye heat mask roundup. So we took quite a few bestsellers from online and from optometry offices, and we're comparing them to see how well they perform in terms of maintaining a proper temperature for the duration, which is about 10 minutes typically, and how evenly the mask performs, the comfort, the hygiene, and the accessibility of where to get these things here. So we reviewed each one of these, bought every single one ourselves. We did not get paid for any of these, so this is just unbiased information that we're just testing to help better guide our patients out there who want to take care of their eye health and their dry eye. A Renful Eyeris eye massager that we are going to test out to see how effective this is for a warm compress for your eye. So this thing's pretty cool. It's a electronic battery power. It's got some speakers to help you keep yourself occupied while this mask is on your face. So let's open the box and check this out. So included, they have some instructions. It's pretty self-explanatory. What's interesting is that there's different settings that you can select from in terms of how hot you want this to be and how much pressure you want to have it applied to. So easiest way is just to show you how to use it. So this thing here has this nice strap so you can adjust it depending how big your head is. And it kind of like wraps around your face, your head actually. So you'll actually conform your eye really well. So turn it on, you press this power button here, and this thing just talks to you. So let's hold this a little longer.
Renfo eye massager on. Air pressure plus heat.
So when you turn it on, it tells you what setting it's on right now. So the default is it turns everything on. So you can turn off the music by pushing this button here. This top button is the air pressure, which is actually you can see it kind of like pushing out forward there, and that's just what hits your eye there. And the bottom is the heat setting. So the heat setting here, it has a low and a high and no temperature. So we tested this massager, and you pretty much need to use this at the high heat level to actually do anything. The low level doesn't really do anything, and no heat is not really necessary. I mean, just massaging is not going to do anything for your eye glands, but if you like how it feels, I guess it doesn't hurt. In terms of the massaging aspect, it's not quite pushing on your eyelids as well as it should be. It's more like just around the eye. So it feels nice, but after applying the heat on this thing, you probably want to go in afterwards and use your fingers to massage your eyelids. But the heat on this is actually very good. It stays very consistently and it heats up pretty quick. And it stays, about the 108, 110 range pretty well for the 10-minute duration that I tested this at. So that's actually a very nice therapeutic temperature for this thing. But yeah, the music, I got kind of annoyed by it, so I turned it off when I tested it. And then the massaging aspect, I also turned that off. So I just kept it only at heat aspect on this one here. So the default's at high temperature, you should leave it there. But yeah, I mean, it works pretty well. I was surprised, I was kind of skeptical in terms of how well this thing would work. But I mean, it fit pretty well on me. And I mean, I'm feeling the massage and the heat, it feels kind of interesting. The heat's very gentle. It's very diffused really nicely. So the whole mask itself, it's got a nice heat everywhere. So you don't have to worry about it being not warm enough wherever your eye would actually sit on this thing here. So it actually did a very good job. It's a very nice, gentle heat. It doesn't feel very like hot spots or anything. So very well done. I'm actually very impressed by this thing. It did really great. And more importantly, it maintained the temperature very consistently. So when you actually do these things for like 10 minutes, it actually gets that temperature for as long as you need it to. This thing does have a timer, so it will shut off for you automatically. So if not, if you don't have a timer on you, you can just rest and relax and this thing will do pretty well. But overall, I'm impressed. This is a great little option for patients who want to do a warm compress but don't want to deal with the microwave or the other masks where there's a wire that hangs down from the mask itself. We've got another review of those coming up as well. But overall, very nicely done with. Next up, we have the Bruder eye mask. So this is a very popular mask that you can find online on Amazon. This thing's got like 12,000 reviews on it. A lot of offices will sell this also to their patients directly. So it doesn't matter where you get it, they all are gonna be the same mask here. So this Bruder mask is a microwavable one. So there's beads in it here that you, when you stick in the microwave, these beads all heat up. And the idea is throughout the 10-minute duration that you should be doing these compresses for, the beads release heat and some of the moisture it grabs when it was being microwaved. So, you know, first off, the instructions say to microwave this for 20 seconds, and I did. I found that it didn't get quite hot enough for what you need these masks to be at. It was hovering around the 95 to 98 degree range very consistently, and that's not quite warm enough. I mean, it's you need a warmer for it to get an effect to actually loosen up your oil glands in your eyes. So you can add additional time. So I did an additional 10 seconds and that actually hit the sweet spot perfectly. So when I did it at 30 seconds in the microwave, the temperature was actually right where we want it to be at, you know, above around the 100 to 113 range there. So check your microwave, you know, if you have a thermometer, you know, try 20 seconds first, but don't be surprised if you're gonna have to heat this up a little bit more. But the good thing is, if you do heat it for 30 seconds, this mask does perform for the whole 10-minute duration. It does lose heat gradually as the duration goes on, but it does stay within the range when you use it at the 30-second mark. Versus at the 20-second, it started already under the range, and by the time that 10 minutes is up, it was already pretty much kind of lukewarm. It's not gonna do anything for your eye glands for that. So the idea is, the important thing with this Bruder mask is, yeah, make sure you check the temperature setting. And in terms of the mask itself, yeah, it fits pretty well. It's pretty big, so it fits most faces pretty well. There's a Velcro strap on this guy here, so you can buckle it down. And you know, this is the smallest setting here, so even the smallest heads will still work with this thing, and then you can go like super big. So very versatile sizing, you know, with this compress here. You know, it's pretty easy to put on. It's like a strap. It has Velcro on it here too. There's a little elastic strap here, so it's very easy to put on without looking at yourself. And you know, the beads I can feel really resting and cupping against my eye really well. When we measure the temperature on this mask here, the temperature is definitely the warmest in the middle, and on the top it kind of misses a little bit. Sides and the bottom is at the therapeutic temperature. So as long as the mask is sitting at least in this your eye area, right in this area here, you'll be fine. If it's a little bit higher, the beads kind of sink down. It just doesn't work as well. But other than that, it's a nice mask. It's not the most hygienic mask though, because this thing doesn't come off. It's just the beads and this thing. So when you clean this thing, you have to dunk the whole thing and wash it off. So that might be a deal breaker for some. Bruder says it shouldn't be a problem, but you know, there's other masks that I've reviewed that actually have a removable insert, so it is easier to clean that. But all in all, this is a very, you know, affordable, easy to get mask, and it's something that will definitely work. Just again, be mindful of the temperature that you all use at this at and measure it, because warm compresses are great, but you gotta get it at the temperature to do a therapeutic effect. So that's it for this review for Bruder. They actually have another mask. This company actually makes another one, and we're gonna review that one next here. And that one is called Thermolon. So this one is easy to find in brick and mortar. So I guess this is their solution for folks who can't order online or through an optometry office. It's made by the same company, so I kind of find that interesting. But when I opened the mask, I kind of figured out maybe why. You know, it's a bigger mask for sure, right? So you can see how big this thing is. It's a lot heavier. There's much more beads in this thing here. Same Velcro strap system as the other one here, so as a Bruder mask. So it's very similar in how they designed this thing here. The tag here tells you the instructions. It says to microwave for 20 seconds and increase in an additional 10 seconds. But don't do over 30. So same thing with the Bruder mask. I had to go a little higher over 20 seconds to get this thing to be in the warm temperature range. But this thing shot so much higher when I gave it at 30 seconds. It was getting to like the 130s, which is a little too warm. So maybe 25 seconds might do the trick, or even 20 seconds depending on your microwave. But the main difference is that this has more beads in it, so it retains more heat. So that's the reason why this thing was like 30 degrees warmer than the Bruder mask. It is, again, a bigger mask, so you know, for smaller people's faces, this may not work as well. I mean, the Velcro and the elastic strap does help, but plenty of beads. I mean, I feel it like it's really, contouring my eye orbit area really well. I mean, it is a big mask, so you might feel heating up happening along the lower eye area, on the cheekbone and the cheekbone area, and your eyebrows too. But it's not a deal breaker. I mean, if you like the heat there, nothing wrong with this mask. But yeah, this mask is actually very easy to get at the store. I found this at Walmart. So if you can't find the other masks and you're in a bind, this one actually works really well. I mean, it's something that it's made by the same people, Bruder, so that also helps with all the track record they have on that mask. So again, this mask works pretty good, but you might want to heat this one up less time than the Bruder mask, because this thing has a lot more beads. You can actually see it side by side here. I mean, you can stack it, and from the side profile. You can see this thing is a lot bigger than this thing here. So if you have a bigger face, maybe this Thermolon one works a little bit better here. Otherwise, the Bruder one might fit you better. But again, on my face, this thing actually fits fine too. It's just, I got more skin touch there, which again, it's a deal breaker to some. Then get the Bruder mask. The mask itself is also non-removable, so you have to wash this whole thing to clean it out. So that's something that can be a deal breaker, depending on how dirty this thing gets. You're gonna have to clean this whole thing and then let it air dry out. But besides that, this mask itself, they say hand wash in cold water with a little detergent, and you let it dry for 24 hours. So that can set you back. I mean, this thing needs to dry out completely. Otherwise, you don't want mold and bacteria to grow inside this thing, and then putting that on your eye kind of defeats the purpose there. So heads up on that. There's other masks that we have sampled and tried that show you that actually, it may not be more easier to clean. But so far, these do perform like how we want them to. So just again, watch the time in the Bruder. More on the Bruder, less on the Thermolon. The next mask we have is the KimKoo mask here. So this again was rated pretty well on Amazon, so just want to test all these out, just make sure people are buying the right ones that actually would do something for them. This one is a little different because it's this mask, this outer covering is like a fabric, so it's actually like velvety soft. So I imagine actually would feel really nice on the eye. It is removable, so that's the advantage of this one here, is like this mask you can take out and you can wash this in the laundry, and these are the beads. These are what's doing the warming action, right? So when you microwave it, these beads are actually what is warming up and getting that moisture and heat to transfer to your eyelids. So put this thing back on. So as you can see, that bag that I just took out was a pretty big bag of beads, right? The mask itself is, a little on the plus size end here. So that this mask is probably gonna retain heat pretty well, and sure enough, it did. So when we tested this out at 30 seconds in the microwave, this thing wasn't like in the 130s. It was definitely, quite warm. So we probably would tell you go a little bit on the lower end on time-wise in the microwave because of how big this mask is and how much beads there are. That it definitely will retain the heat pretty well. Again, same thing with the other ones. This is a Velcro strap, again, on this mask here. So let's test out this guy here. So again, when you put it on and you Velcro it to yourself, you can feel it. It's really grip and contour, right? It's very stable. Again, just like that Thermolon mask, this thing here, these bottom beads here is really kind of hitting my cheek area, not so much my eye. But because there's so much beads in this area here, we know that the eye area will still have plenty of heat transfer from the mask to the eyelids. So it will get the job done pretty well. This mask smelled pretty bad when I microwaved it, so I'm not kind of too fond of that smell, but I imagine as you use it more, it'll kind of degas and it won't smell as much. But yeah, the odor was a little stronger in this one here. So up next, we have the MediViz eye mask here. So this one is similar to the KimKoo one, where it's got a fabric outer mask layer that is removable, so you can clean it and not clean like the middle beads part here. So this is velcroed on the top, and then the beads here will come on out here. So that's how this mask works here. So very hygienic, very easy to remove this mask here. The fabric itself is pretty soft as well. It is kind of bright, but hey, I mean, no one's looking at you, then I don't think it really matters so much. But yeah, it's a very soft fabric here. Plenty of beads. This one is roughly the same size as the KimKoo. Maybe it's slightly smaller than that one. It's still on the larger end of masks for sure. So far the Bruder one is gonna be the better one for a lower, smaller, slimmer profile one. In terms of strap, it's also Velcro. It's a thick band, so that thing will actually be very stable, and it's got Velcro all over this whole thing, unlike the other ones. So you can get this really small, so that helps with the smaller face people, maybe even the kids who need to do these things here. So that's a plus on this thing here, is like it's very adjustable on that side. The mask itself, you know, it's pretty straightforward to put on. I find that this one here, even though that has that Velcro, is very, you know, adjustable. This, like, the shape of this has so much beads in it, and I just feel like it's like sinking way down over here instead of being concentrated where my eyes are at, like right here. So it is a little big, but I mean, so much beads in it that the heat will transfer to your eye area, you know, plenty well. When we tested this one here, it started off really hot. It was getting like, you know, the like almost 140s, right? But it cooled off very dramatically. So the heat retention on this one isn't as good as the other ones. So by the time it got to the end of 10 minutes, it was still in a good therapeutic range, but you're gonna go through more extreme temperature swings on this mask compared to the other ones. So that's something that you might want to consider on this thing here, is like the range isn't gonna be as stable. So far, the most stable range has been the electronic ones, right? But these microwavable ones, you're always gonna expect it to lose heat as the time duration goes on. But this one lost heat very rapidly. So that was kind of the interesting thing with this one, even though you think they're all kind of similar. But yeah, this thing here, the temperature differential was kind of dramatic. So this one, for that reason, I may not reach for this one as much. It's just because you're kind of like shocking your eye glands for a little while with that kind of hot temperature. Versus if you microwave for like 20 seconds and you start it at the right temperature of the therapeutic range, or like 120-ish or so, let's say, by the time that 10 minutes is up, this thing will already be outside that therapeutic window. So that's kind of the problem with this mask, I feel, is like you're not gonna get the full duration for this. But if you're gonna wear this for a few minutes, it'll work. But these masks need to be on a little bit longer so you can actually get an effect from these things here. Next mask we have is the MyHalos mask here. So this is also a microwavable mask with a removable insert to clean. So that's a plus, right? So you take this thing out and you just clean this out here, and then place the beads back in, and you're back in business. So very nice hygienic performance of this thing here. The mask itself, it's a nice size. It's definitely smaller than the other microwavable masks we've reviewed that have a removable insert, and it's still big enough to contour the eye really well. The strap is very, you know, Velcro-y. It's not Velcro-y, very stretchy. There's no Velcro in this thing, rather. So when you put this on, you just adjust it once and you just keep doing it. It should work out pretty well. Yeah, again, I feel very soft fabric. It's very comfortable for sure. The beads definitely contour the eye very well. I think because the tension on this can be tighter, that, you know, you can get the beads to not sink so much. They actually do like grip the eye area pretty well. So that's a plus in terms of comfort and heat exchange. The mask itself was a little erratic in its temperature differential as well. You know, at 30 seconds in the microwave, this thing was coming out like almost at like 140, and then it took a few minutes to cool it down to like the 120 range. And then by the end of 10 minutes, it was still in the therapeutic range, but it was like, you know, it dropped almost like 40 degrees from the time 0 to time 10 minutes. So the heat retention on this isn't the greatest like the other ones are, and it's been, and the heat distribution is kind of like, you know, very all over the place on this thing here. Again, you know, the beads do sink down in one area, so that could contribute to it, but the heat retention on this thing definitely isn't as good as the other ones. However, you know, you can always migrate for a little bit or reduce the time, and it's still going to be in the therapeutic range. Or if you do go the full amount, let it rest for a little bit and then put it on your eyes so that you're not scorching yourself. But you do not want to get it too hot on yourselves. But overall, again, there's a lot of plus to this, but the heat retention on this thing here isn't quite as nice, and that's been a problem with the other one, with the MediViz. Had that problem as well. So that's a consideration you should take, because you do not want to get this to be lukewarm too quick, nor do you want this to get way too hot and then get that on your eye. The next heat mask we got is the Aroma Season heat mask. So this one's different in that it's a pluggable in. So you plug it into a USB outlet, and then you connect it with the connection here. So when you're wearing this mask, there's gonna be a wire dangling down your face like a headphone cable. So if you don't like that, that's already a deal breaker. Don't get it, right? So that's something to consider. This has a removable pouch, so it's, you know, very hygienic. This thing here is actually the heating element in this pad here. Depending on how you feel about it, you may not want this either. Like, just the thought of like, you know, electricity kind of heating this up and being like right on your eye may spook some people, like with like a thermal runway event happens and this thing gets way too hot. I mean, it's a valid concern. When we measured this thing, it actually took a while to ramp up anyways, so that's something that probably is not gonna happen, but if it does, you can probably react quick enough. So when we first plugged this on and tested it on our eyes, the temperature for the first 2-3 minutes was under the therapeutic range, so it takes a little while to ramp up. But once it gets there, you know, to be around the 100s, 110s there, it stayed there pretty consistently. It didn't really go any higher than that. So that's actually a very nice, stable temperature control. This thing does have a built-in timer for it, so that's something that you can just put it on and let it do its thing. But yeah, overall, it's a very soft mask. Again, this is the outside. This is what actually fits in the eye. It's a thin mask, so it's something that you're gonna feel that heating element through this pretty easily. But the good thing is that heating pad isn't like super hot. It's actually a very good temperature that it's set at. It just takes a little while to get to that temperature range. So if you don't want to do the warm compress for maybe like 13-15 minutes, then don't do this one, because the first few minutes are not going to be warm enough by the time it gets to the temperature it needs to be at to actually loosen up the glands. This thing smells pretty good. They have, I guess, like a lavender insert into it, so that's a plus. But again, you know, some patients aren't too fond of like having like a wire electricity like right on their eye. I wouldn't blame them, honestly. So that's something that's probably the biggest downfall in this thing here, is just your comfort level with putting like electrical heating pads right on your eye skin. That's kind of like a little, you know, kind of delicate tissue there. So for that reason, you know, you may not want to do it. But if you're going strictly in terms of performance, this thing actually does perform well, but the caveat that you do need to wait a few minutes before it gets to that temperature. All right, so for the final recap of which eye compress mask I like as an optometrist for my patients to use, we'll organize this in a few categories, because I do think they all perform pretty well as long as you kind of know where the temperature in these start at. So if you're going for electronic and you want to kind of like not worry about temperature to be at the correct amount and all that stuff. The Renfo works pretty well. It's just a little heavy, so that's a caveat with that. You might feel it's kind of sucking against your head a little too tight, but in terms of temperature control and just how it works, plain and simple, it works pretty well. So that is for my patients who would like an electronic aspect of it versus dealing with the hassle of microwaving things and that sort of. The next tiers are the microwavable masks, right? And from here we can break down what I would say the best overalls are going to be the Bruder and the Thermolon. They're just very tested. They work really well. The Bruder mask in particular, as we remember, just make sure you heat up a little bit more. Thermolon, heat up a little bit less. So if you're in a bind and you can't find any of these masks, the Thermolon is available locally, so that's why this gets a mention in this roundup here. The Bruder mask, you can buy this on Amazon, you can buy this at optometry offices, so that's also an aspect of it. But again, these things do need to be cleaned, so that's kind of why it is a little of a caveat, and that's kind of why the MyHalos is what I think overall when you compare the pros and cons and the performance. It's a very nice mask to get. Again, just make sure you time the microwave temperature. You might want to do it 20-25 seconds. Don't do it too long, and that way this thing doesn't get too hot initially. But then after that, the temperature maintaining it gets for the 10-minute duration works pretty well. It's also a removable insert. It's very soft. I just think that for as frequently as people might be doing this, you want it to be comfortable. And this MyHalos one, I think, is a good size for a lot of people here too. That's not too gigantic, kind of like what the Thermolon mask that I just showed there had. So for that reason, among the microwavable masks, the MyHalos, I think the hygiene, performance, it works pretty well. But if you're strictly going for temperature, ability to maintain a nice, consistent temperature, the Bruder and the Thermolon are going to be the better choices. So you can pick performance or you can pick comfort. It's up to you. If you go with the comfort, you still can get good temperature performance, but again, 25 seconds, 25 seconds, it's still going to be pretty warm when you first put it on, and at the end of 10 minutes, the temperature is going to be on the lower end of that therapeutic range. So it's still getting the job done. Compared to the Bruder and the Thermolon, it's going to lose temperature, but it's going to be at a very gradual rate. So that's something that it's just up to you, your preference on how you do things, if you're after performance or for comfort. And that's kind of why the electronic has the advantage where it does get that performance in it because it's electronically controlled in that sense. And it's very easy to clean because of the material itself. You can just wipe it off. You don't need dunk it and just clean it with soap and water like you do with the other two. So that's my roundup of these things here. Again, I bought all these myself, and as an optometrist, I just wanted to test out which ones are working good, because warm compresses are very good things to do for dry eye and for styes, but if you're using the wrong one, you're applying that heat for no reason. So definitely want to make sure the time you're spending is actually worthwhile. So let me know if you have any other masks you want me to try out. I just took out the most popular ones I found on Amazon and from online people. I took the ones that I knew about from my trade, and I just researched them and then just figured out these are the contenders here. But if I missed one, let me know in the comments what you think you want me to try out. I'll do a quick YouTube short on it for a review on that one to update for you all as well. That's it for now. Thanks for watching. See you later.